Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here for this panel discussion. And thank you, ET Retail, for the opportunity. On this panel, we'll be discussing digitizing the in-store and online experience and how AI is taking traditional retail to the next level. My name is Dhruv. I'm an associate partner at Bain, and I've spent the last 9 years working on consumer tech, retail, and strategy. And I'll let the panelists introduce themselves.
Well, I'm Sanjay, and I have close to 2 decades of experience in various industries. At present, I am at Bestseller and I'm designated as a Chief Digital Officer.
Hi, I'm Dharmarajan. I head beauty business for Tata CLiQ.
Hi, this is Praveen Shrikhande. I head digital and IT at Aditya Birla Fashion. Not many of you may know about Aditya Birla Fashion, but essentially our brands are Pantaloons, Louis Philippe, Van Heusen, Forever 21, etc. So,
Hi, everybody. I'm Sreekanth. I head the e-commerce and digital business for ShopperStop.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Navin Mistry. I am a current senior advisor to Shiprocket to build their international business.
I am Vikram Idnani. I head technology at Reliance Retail.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anuradha Tyagi. I'm a director with Salesforce, look into their retail and CPG industry advisory.
Okay, great. Let's dive into the discussion. So the $800 billion plus retail market is the fourth largest in the world in India, and it's quickly evolving to include a sizable e-retail component. Customers are increasingly switching between offline and online touchpoints. Sanjay, I'm going to start with you. What are the key AI use cases that will help better serve customers and add to the growth of brands?
So I think AI has moved way beyond what it was let's say around 6-7 years back, when it was more of a tool to solve certain problems, or more of a let's say platform or solution, basically where a human can interact with AI and play games like chess. As of now, AI has moved well beyond, and this is an area of increasing the customer experience. AI is proving a pivotal role in engaging customer more, and at the same time, it is impacting the top line and the bottom line of the companies directly. Top of head, basically, if you talk about some of the use cases which excite me, the one is in beauty industry, where the likes of Sephora. They have 2 apps, Clean IQ and Lip IQ, and that has given a transformation experience to their customer. So I think the ladies out here would appreciate how difficult it is to find the right concealer, the right foundation, or the right the color of the right shade of the lipstick. With this 2 apps, the customer can scan their face, and then basis the color of their skin, the color of their lip, the app suggests the perfect match of the concealer, of the foundation, or of the the lipstick shade. So that has given a transformative experience to their customer. Other parallel use cases, if you look at it from the robotics point of view, what Walmart has in their stores, there's a shelf monitoring robots, and robots basically uses 3D imaging, and then goes around a store as big as 100,000 square feet, goes every nook and corner, and monitor the shelf. While monitoring the shelf, it checks the inventory level, it checks the level, it checks the MRP, and all the discrepancies it brings out seamlessly. And with this, what Walmart employees get basically is sufficient time to engage with the customer and guide them in their shopping journey. I think AI use cases, I think the list would not be complete if we don't talk about Amazon Go. It's the perfect the blending of let's say deep learning, computer vision, and image sensing, where in Amazon Go store you can simply check in using your app. Not only you can check in, you have your friends or the family members, they can check in using your app. And while you are in a store, whatever you shop, whatever your friends and family members shop, all that gets added in your cart, and you can simply come out of the store without getting into a cashier counter or a cashier till, and that's all seamlessly done with the app, and then the image sensing what they do within the store. So Amazon has taken the game to the next level, right? Wherein simply walk in and walk out, and what we say is that the consumer gets the frictionless experience while shopping. I think to me, the best or basically top of the list, what I see is what Uniqlo has done. Uh, you get into a Uniqlo store and they have a kiosk which is called UMood, right? And Uniqlo was struggling that they had huge, let's say, styles of T-shirts, so ranging from 800 to 1,000 styles, and for them it was very difficult for customer to choose, what is really going to suit them. If you are in any of those, the flagship stores of Uniqlo, you can go to the kiosk, you just see, and then, what you see is the perfect blending of neuroscience, the perfect blending of artificial intelligence in play. So you just sit on the Umut kiosk, and they will play, couple of videos, a couple of images, and they receive the, the neuro signals from your brain while looking at a video, while looking at a picture, while looking at a style. Basis, the neuro signals being received from the brain, they recommend you basically the right fit or the right style or the right color of the T-shirt. That's phenomenal. I think that has taken the game to the next level. I think these are a couple of examples. I can list down more and more, but these are some of the top examples of the use cases what we see prevalent in the industry, and it has the potential to completely change the the game of being played in organized retail.
Thanks, Sanjay. Navin, you've been helping sellers sell across the world. What's your view?
Yeah, I think so. The AI and CX is a perfect combination of artificial intelligence and human intelligence as well, right? So when you really sell your brand globally, or let me just give an example. Let's say through Shiprocket in a supply chain, the information which is used automates your regular task, all those things. That's the basic one now. Going forward, it's more about proactively understanding the customer needs, customer sentiments, customer emotions, right? Understanding the language of the customer, and far away, not only the sort of the click-throughs, but even the language in terms of written and oral, right? So whether it's a regional language or so, now you bring everything together, right? And you provide that experience, then you are truly a global brand. Because when you sell across globally, right, you are not only chasing the English-speaking country, but a non-English speaking country. And because of this artificial intelligence and sort of technology, the barriers to sell internationally in their local language has been vanishing. It's diminishing, right? And today India is the tech hub. Our technology it's far more superior and competitive. And any brand who adopts to this sort of style to target the consumer in a local market, whether it's France, Germany, showcase the product in their language using this AI and technology, and suddenly you will see that your conversion, your brands are truly global in nature, and that's how what we've been sort of suggesting to the brands to grow globally.
Wonderful, very interesting. Anuradha, we were just talking about the Salesforce Shopping Index and how customers are traversing as many as 9 touch points in their customer journey. Can you tell us a little bit more about the use cases?
Absolutely. I think when we look at consumers straddling across multiple touch points, what that really brings out is the fact that we are now in an era which has become far more pronounced in the context of the pandemic. There is, of course, blurring of physical and digital domains. So it's not about choosing one over the other. I think what AI is enabling retailers and brands do is really make sure that they are able to offer their consumers bespoke experiences across channels, across touch points. And from a use case standpoint, I think what one needs to first up understand is the purpose of AI technology, and that really is to inform and enhance every single customer experience touch point across the board, whether physical, online, web, app, store, etc. In the context of where we are seeing a lot of push on the pedal as far as AI tech investments are concerned today, so use cases which are most commonly seen today are number one, when we look at the chatbot assisted services. I think most of us have had exposure to chatbots, and many a times when you are really seeking customer service across your food aggregator apps, whether it's to do with a brand or a retailer or a store that you shop from, we don't really realize the magic that AI is doing behind the board. And the beauty about chatbot really is that it also by itself self-learns from past data, becomes far more refined and intelligent going forward so as to solve for customer interactions and make sure that their experience is enhanced in the process. I think the second one, most definitely from a use case standpoint, is the digitization and improvement of in-store experiences. And what that's really doing, Sanjay also touched upon it beautifully with the Amazon Go example, is there are cashierless checkouts experiences. There is digitization of your trial rooms. There is also a lot of real-time monitoring that can happen of your inventory and stocks, by virtue of which you're able to replenish them accordingly and timely and in a faster way. I think the third one, from a current use case standpoint, would also be smart product searches. How AI is sort of marrying past data as well as behavioral, psychological data points of consumers, and able to predict and recommend the right sort of relevant product types as well as content. And the last one that really comes to my mind from current set of use cases would really be more in terms of how warehouse management has also become really core on the back of big data, AI-driven tech. Whether you see drones sort of reaching every nook and corner of the warehouse to check inventory, different SKUs, or for that matter, leveraging user data, location, promotions, and being able to understand and predict very timely what the future demand could look like. This is more to do with the current use cases. I think from a future use case standpoint, some of this might just be tech that retailers and brands think through and see how mature the market gets to really invest in it. Will be, at least in the Indian context, voice search. Today, voice search, as we see, is largely restricted to mobile, but going forward, there might just be a use case from the lens of looking at websites and how websites really see the coming together of voice and vernacular to enable better search. And I think a second very interesting one to think of would be fraud detection. There is, of course, a lot of adoption that has happened to digital and online shopping, but with that also comes this level of risk and exposure of consumer data, etc. So how can AI sort of pre-detect any kind of suspicious activities, false returns, make sure that they are able to safeguard the security systems of retailers, and for that matter, make sure that the shopping experience for consumers is not just seamless, but also safe and protected. I think those would be the ones that really come to my mind, both from a current standpoint as well as, from a future lens, what could just become a bigger AI use case.
Very interesting, from customer engagement to customer fulfillment. Praveen, what about from a fashion point of view? What do you think? Where products and pricing are changing, every month with different seasons. How does AI help?
So yeah, I think most of the use cases you talked about are applicable even in the fashion retail business. I would broadly classify in maybe three types. So there are the ones which work behind to enable the supply chain and the pricing models and so on. So typically in fashion, one big problem you always have is figuring out what to make. Fashion changes every 6 months. So how do you decide what to make for your next season? And once you pick on a design, how much of it to make? Because it's not that the supply chains of fashion typically have long lead time. So a call has to be taken in terms of what will work in the market, and based on that, place orders in advance, get them to the stores, and then manage the flow of that inventory. So all this, there's a lot of AI models which have been built from the point of view of understanding fashion trends and how they are changing, and using that to predict what kind of products may work in future. Also to decide where to sell, right? Where to sell is again not a simple problem. In, let's say, a network like ours with 3,000 stores, you'll not have enough capacity in a store to put in everything that's available in your inventory. So to decide what particular products to put in which store and what sizes and so on is again a problem typically which we use AI and machine learning very effectively. And then during season, depending on what works, what doesn't work, working out your pricing, discounting, and so on. So those are some of the back-end use cases. Of course, on the front end, I think it's more of in-store empowering the customer service associates to be able to engage better with customers. I mean, a lot of this you anyway do online, where, let's say, similar products or for cross-selling or something which will go with what you may have already chosen. Bringing some of those models in the store is probably another area where we are working on today, where the customer service associate is empowered to make recommendations to customers based on their interest in real time.
Thank you. Fantastic. So we've heard a lot about the use cases. Let's switch gears a little bit towards the implementation. And Dharam, so this question is for you. How are brands planning on AI implementation strategies? And what are the prerequisites to getting it done?
Yeah, thanks. If you see it from the omni-channel view, most of the brands today, at least on the AI side, as even Anuradha was mentioning, it's mostly on the digital side. Most of the use cases. On the offline world, there is a lot of gap to be covered. There are few retailers like Amazon and all who have done Amazon Go, but in today's context, there is a wide gap in the very basic understanding of customer itself. On the offline store, even today, you get to see these guards standing with clickers, counting the number of people entering into the store. And it's not uncommon. I'm talking about large retailers today using that as a model. And God forbid, if the marketing head wants to know how many men and how many women, the guard then carries 2 clickers in his hand or in her hand. So that's how it is. So first and foremost, the change or what will happen is some of the very basic use cases on the online world coming to offline would require a lot of AI. For example, to know the footfall, how many people are walking in the store and walking out. Once you're entering into the store, which zone are you entering into? What products are you seeing? There are a lot of computer vision aided, camera aided technologies being used, which is where we believe a lot of science and knowledge that currently exist in the online digital space. The offline world, the use of AI will happen, which is about purely understanding the consumers. On the online, we today are, at least on the e-commerce side, we are using it for various aspects. From the front end side, we use it for in-session personalization. If a customer comes onto the platform, she searches for a few products, the subsequent action, what she gets to see is on the fly moderated to what her search was. It is to the level we can design the search results are customized and it is done on a real-time basis. It keeps changing. If you search for a product, it will be very different from some other customer, and we do it on a real-time basis. Recommendation is completely on AI. We have sort of started with various models. Today it runs on its own. It learns the recommendation. Some of the insights that we draw out of consumer performances, we couldn't have sort of even guessed it. None of our hypothesis had customer having a very strong association with a certain price point and a certain category. All of that we use AI. Third large front-end use case, which is helping us a lot, is on the promise. Today we realize on conversion, it's dependent on how quickly I can deliver and how accurately I can promise. And it's not a trivial problem. In the Indian context, be able to accurately promise how much time a product will take to reach a customer. And especially in a marketplace environment, when you are sourcing product from 10,000 odd locations and delivering it to 20,000 pin codes across country, being able to exactly predict how much time will it takes a lot of science, depending on which partner you are using, which lane, which product, which time of the day, and all of it, which week, which month, taking into various consideration around peak because of sale, festival related interventions, etc. This is another use case for us where we use a lot of ML. Other than that, there are some of the points, again, what Anuradha mentioned, we use extensively on the customer services side, which is text mining, using that information, using the insight for redefining how do I show it to consumers in the front end, using some of the automated capability to solve basic simple problems. Now basic simple customer queries, we have now moved to reasonably advanced queries being able to solve through some of these AI models. We also use it for pricing and promotion. It's again our day-to-day. We keep doing our price elasticity testing. What is the best optimal level of discounting, and then be able to pass on that information to sellers to optimize their pricing, when to increase, when to decrease, how much to increase it by. We use a lot of ML program.
Very interesting. So I think the latent customer needs have always been there, but now you're able to use data and AI to actually fulfill those. And on your third point, fulfill those very quickly. So very interesting. Thanks for sharing. Shri, you call yourself a digital nomad. Tell us a little bit. Would love to hear your view and your experience with the implementation of some of these digital strategies.
Sure. Not a nomad anymore because I'm pretty settled. But I think all my fellow speakers have literally talked about all the use cases which I wanted to share. So it'll come down to implementation, because I think what is very critical is to understand what your assets are, and then it's about how do you leverage on those assets and drive value, may not necessarily drive cost. So that's been as a foundation, as a thought process, which has always been with me in terms of working and capitalizing on whatever already exists. So I'll just give an example of Shopper Stop. So one of the things which we are very proud of is our customers, and we call them our first citizens. That's our loyalty program, and that's 8 million members. They contribute anywhere over 75% of the total sales at a group level. Which is a very strong data point. It brings a lot of repeat, brings a lot of retention. But then what's very important out here is that how are you capitalizing on this? So what we thought that for us to drive this entire customer lifetime value, we definitely need machine learning. We need something which would be a lot more predictive. So the first thing which we started working on was some sort of a data lake. So basically, we just need some sort of a platform which allows us to consolidate all our customer data points, and that could be across channels because we are an omni-channel retailer. So we have our brand.com, we have our stores, different formats of stores. So the idea was to bring all of that together. Once we had that, internally we were able to differentiate every customer with a unique code. Based on that, all the things which the fellow speakers talked about in terms of driving hyper-personalization was something very much possible online. Because for us, even at the online side, almost 40% is a contribution from first citizen. So it becomes a lot easier, especially when you're here to drive sustainable, scalable, and profitable business. It becomes important how you're measuring your acquisition. But then when you leverage on that customer data you've got, that gives a lot of room, that creates the appetite for out of you to find a lookalike audiences from other channels. So AI has really helped us in terms of creating various personas. It has helped us to create a lot of these propensity models, which again allows us to curate, target our audiences across various marketing channels. And obviously the conversion is obviously on the higher side, and the cost since the conversion is on the higher side, cost naturally comes down, which further creates the appetite to go after. So it's like a flywheel, which at the end of the day, it gets created. So I think it becomes very important understanding what your objectives are and all the assets which already exist. You just need to make better use of that data rather than going out there and bringing something which may not be very sustainable in nature. I think that's something which we are very clear on and very much focused on. So any new channel, we want to try out new things. So there is always a risk, but then we do have this cushion of a lot of data points which we collect. But it's about how we are able to make use of that and drive better behavior. That's been a constant focus.
Very interesting. And Vikram, you've led large-scale implementation of IT and digital projects. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So talking about AI strategies, right, for across an organization, I think what brands are doing, and I'll just talk about implementations that we've done, and I'm seeing what everyone's doing, is really looking at your business from two aspects. One is your customer, two is your supply chain. Customer basically has started to get you started to get more competitive with all of your peers. How does one get competitive with all of your peers using AI? They've talked about colleagues have talked about various use cases, but I think one important one that's happening now is price optimization. Okay, because pricing has become a very important kind of competitive advantage for anyone. And I think what's happening here with various brands is going from simple Excel sheet based, price calculations to jumping beyond just automation of pricing, but into AI based pricing. So predictive pricing is an important use case that is coming up extensively. We've also talked about recommendations on your product listing pages and all of that stuff. But I think fundamentally, those use cases have been around for a while. I think what brands and what anyone needs to do when you're doing an implementation like that is make sure you have the right data. You have clarity on one, what objective you want to achieve, right? What do you want to do? How do you want a customer to react? That's number one. Number two is what is the information that will be needed to provide this? And I'll give you a simple example that if someone is sitting in a city like Nagpur, okay, where it does not rain too much, whereas somebody in the northeast, okay, where rainfall is very high. So I was just chatting with someone the other day, and they said we include things like high rainfall at certain times of the year. So just making sure that all of your attributes, your data attributes are captured correctly. Otherwise, AI is of no use if you don't capture, if you don't have the right attributes in place. So I think that's a fundamental thing. And that's the customer side of it. When I look at the supply chain side of it, there's been massive amount of adoption on the online space, right? Which now means with omni-channel fulfillment coming into play, you now have inventory that is shared between my stores, warehouses, right? So or between an online and offline rather. So someone placing an order online might have a product being delivered from a store. So how do you plan inventory now across your store and your warehouse effectively? So demand planning is becoming an important use case, and it's really coming up very fast now with omni-channel fulfillment and having your inventory optimized. I think that's another one. If I look at another competitive thing that's happening in the market, it's about speed of delivery, right? I think Dharam pointed out to how fast can I deliver a product to my customer. Not only about speed, but I'll add on one more thing to that, is the whole how much can I pack into a truck, for example, and deliver multiple orders, for example, to multiple customers, so that I'm fulfilling the speed kind of criteria, but I'm also getting more effective on my cost. Okay, so route planning is an important aspect, and AI ML is playing a very big role in that, and these are areas which we are working on as well. But I think customer supply chain, I think that's what it is. And if I have to just simply summarize, AI is moving from being a solution searching for a problem to now a problem that is being solved with AI. So I think it's been moved, and as maturity is coming into play, people are starting to use AI in very, very targeted use cases. That's the point.
Very interesting. So you spoke about data, Sri. You also spoke about data just now, and I just want to get to the root of that, because if AI is a solution, at the heart of it is the data that you have, and we've seen over the last 2 years, 3 years, a lot of brands have collected a lot of data. So Anuradha, for you, how can brands use this data that they've collected and really transform the customer experience?
Very valid question. I think when you talk about customer experience, again, going back to what most of the panelists have talked about from a use case lens, I think the crucial thing that big data driven by AI, ML tech really enables is that you're solving not just for customer engagement, but also conversion and retention, and various ways of doing that with AI. I think number one, which is sort of already been touched upon, is the ability to predict better. So predictive personalization has become crucial to any retailer or brand offering going forward, whether it's brand.com, it's offline physical stores, or a mix of both. And what that really does is, from a customer experience standpoint, it almost makes any consumer or shopper feel like this was really stitched for them. They are no more just a number in the room, but it's almost like the brand or the retailer knows them well. I think the second thing really is AI-powered insights. Insights have become far more predictive, incisive, and have enabled decision-making across different departments for a brand far more seamless. And that, of course, not just boosts your conversions, but also results in potentially higher average order value, etc. So it's impacting profitability at the end of the day. The third different way in which customer experience is really being touched upon is how targeted is your marketing? How effective is it? Is it omni-channel? Is it as holistic as possible? Because again, going back to what consumers are looking at, they are straddling across touch points. They are expecting that frictionless, seamless, bespoke experience. And the way AI does that is AI meets with behavioral psychology. So now brands and retailers are actually able to segment consumer data on the basis of current behavior, predict future needs, also segment consumers far better, not just in pools of thousands, but even hundreds. And that gets you to recommend products in a much better way, predict what the fashion would look like in terms of micro seasons, so on and so forth. And I think the last one that really comes to my mind is more in the context of how workflows are also getting far more streamlined and simplified. We, of course, have AI-enabled chatbots, a very, very common use case. But from a customer experience lens, what that does is it's almost pre-filtering leads and really looking into and passing on the most high priority cases to relevant departments. So a chatbot would in that sense not just cater to consumers at any hour of the day with the most basic and relevant information, but also be intelligent enough so as to pass on the right sort of case to the right customer department to be catered to, addressed in that process, not just saving time, but also, of course, making the interaction with the consumer far more satisfactory, if I may. And I think that's how, at a broader level, just to summarize, it's not just the way you boost your engagements, keep your consumers involved at every stage, but also how you're reducing and addressing churn, making sure retention is looked into, and of course, at the same time, in parallel, focusing on conversions.
And Navin, from a supply chain view of the world, what do you think?
So, eventually, let's say any customer experience you want to provide, it starts with your, what you want to offer and what you have, right, in your backend, in your store or at a warehouse, right? And that's what exactly how the data has been processed, used to provide the best customer experience. For example, today when you really buy on various e-commerce sites, a big largest marketplace platform player, they exactly tell you that this particular item will be delivered to you on this date, and these items will be delivered on this date, right? And that makes your choice saying, okay, what I want to buy. Whether I'm willing to wait for 2 days or I will go and buy this item because it will get delivered the very next day, right? But for the simple click behind that, to give that experience, give them the timeline of when this item will be delivered from far corner of India. That is the entire science behind it, and that is what we call post customer experience. Now at Shiprocket, it provides the fulfillment solutions, warehousing solutions, dark stores, one-day delivery. And the entire algorithms which we use is to ensure that the brands, the D2C brands which are selling online, on their website provide the same experience what is been provided on the marketplace, right? So we analyze tons of data, and this gives you a predictability, as said by a couple of speakers over here to exactly tell your customer when this particular item will be delivered. Right? We know exact which pin codes, which carrier partners delivers what time and what is the service level. Right? And this, with the help of this tons of data and working with tons of brands, we now know that which customer will not, return your cash on delivery, because this customer is a very high-end customers buying from iPhone 13, 14, right? And buying, a different, product ASP also. So do not sort of, don't say no COD, go and offer COD. And ShipRockets gives that, kind of, let's say, in between pre-COD kind of options as well. So this is where, as I said, that your supply chain warehousing is the first point, that how you want to offer and what you want to offer to the customer point. And then it's all about, brand building and all those stuff. So if you're not able to build the foundations of your brands, when you from a retail market, you're going to online market and you are saying, okay, I will just put one warehouse and deliver across India, but I don't know what is the stock in warehouse and how the stocks will, whether it's out of stock or not. And if it's out of stock, then I'll call customer saying, sorry, it's out of stock. Those days are gone. Now today, if you see the market, people are talking 10 minutes deliveries and 19 minutes delivery. How is that is possible? Because they exactly know the vicinity you stay, the preferred item you are buying, the preferred item which is bought in that area, right? And how much time it takes to deliver, from, one entry point to the destination point. And this is where the artificial intelligence, the CX, right? I mean, AI and CX is artificial intelligence, mixed with, customer insights or human emotions. And that's gonna be a key differentiator and a key value proposition for any brands to go from online to offline or offline to online, either ways.
Got it. And Dharm, you're probably getting a lot of data at Tata Click. So how do you extract insights from that data and use that to drive meaningful relationships?
Yeah, very interesting. So we are digital native. So for us, data is everything. We sort of went through this journey, starting with first and foremost is data collection itself. Defining the rules of data collection, ensuring there is only one truth of any data point, being very clear, creating those decisions, and capturing and documenting. Then moving from there, those data entries to actual data, which is, it is calling out something. Then from data to insights, and this journey is about when everything and all information that is collected is consistent, it's telling you something, we build the capability to get insight. And then all our internal products that we had started using those insight as well as the data information and using that information for sort of various sort of use cases, whether it is for promise, which is the reference. So one of the gentlemen was talking about in terms of how do you promise to consumers. This is on the data side. And these are existing products, then we started using the data that was there. The next level is building data products itself, which is your whole core engine itself is based on whatever data that comes in, which is the state and which is the stage that we are currently in, where lot of on-the-fly decision making itself is done by the product based on the data. So there is no underlying product that exists. It's all based on data, deciding what data to use and how do you sort of translate it. And this we believe is how lot of online and offline shopping also will evolve. What we are currently building for our next new app, which is for beauty, which should be out in next 4 to 6 weeks. It is highly data driven. It is taking into multiple variables on consumer side about the consumer skin type, hair type, where is she from, which part of the country, brand she likes, and various other information. And on the other side, data insights on the products, product ingredients. And ability to use efficiently, effectively, what works with what doesn't work, what suits. All of this can help us in showcasing the right set of curated products to consumers. So what it does, it takes away the cognitive load on consumer. You showcase the right set of products, the chances of customer liking it, adding the products to cart, researching a little bit more is very high. So the ultimate aim is to showcase the right set of products at a right stage. So different use cases, it's an evolution. When we started working on a recommendation as an engine, our first step was creating those micro segmentation, starting from macro, then going up to n equal to 1. In the micro segmentation, we started using write notifications to customer. What is the chance, probability of consumer trying to buy a particular product? So you send that product or a particular category or a range. Then we went one level deeper and we call it as RPLP, which is recommended listing pages. So which means you are now able to predict the set of products that the consumer is most likely to buy, depending on various signals that you have captured in the past. Next is on the fly next best action, which you start personalizing using data and data insights. There is no end to it. And trying to integrate it in online and offline world is going to be very, very interesting. And none of the journeys the consumer today take for making a shopping decision is linear. She starts a decision in an online or an offline world. She might have seen something on Insta or YouTube, and then visits an offline store, checks the price on an online app, and then decides to buy online or offline. How do you combine all this information, take in input and signals from all these places, and convert that into a consumable insight for customer and let them know this is the right product for you and this is the right product at the right time. Some of tech giants do it brilliantly, like for example, the way Netflix does. Your 98% match of a particular program. So some of that kind of work is what we are currently working on.
Very interesting. And I think that segues very well to my last question. Very briefly, Praveen, how do you think the digitized in-store experience has actually started changing customer behavior?
So again, in-store, a lot of the thought process around what you do in-store is coming from the online world, right? So in the online world, you have a way of capturing customer behavior by their browsing behavior and so on. All those tools are in place and been there for several years. In the offline world, a lot of that doesn't exist. So most of the time, until a customer actually picks up something, walks to the billing counter and buys, you don't really know the customer behavior. The only point you know is at the point of sale. And a lot of the technology is coming around, changing that. And it's again linked to what Amazon Go is doing, which is essentially putting in place visual AI-based technology so that you can track customer behavior within store like you would do online, right? Know what is the profile of the customer walking in, where do they visit, what do they look for, what do they try. All of the things that you today know for online, trying to do that in the offline world too. Again, technology not necessarily in place today, early stages. Probably we are seeing use cases where profiling of customer walk-ins is being done, maybe to some extent hotspots in the store and so on, getting analyzed as to which racks are attracting more customers, which is less. But the end stage potentially could be what Amazon Go does, which is completely, no-touch shopping, where person can just walk in, no attendance, pick up and walk out, and all of that behavior driving the entire store layouts, what merchandise in store and so on. I think the other part today that is getting enabled is helping the customer service associate better in engaging with customers. So again, from the online world, all the algorithms, what Dharmarajan was talking about, the next best offer or personalization, right? How do you do that in the offline world? So the way is really to empower the customer service associate with what is called as clienteling, which enables them to, at the back end, to use similar algorithms, and based on what they know about the customer and what they see as the customer shopping, use those algorithms to help the customers and zero down on what would work for them. Again, limiting it to what's available in the store. I think that is the key part here, that all these algorithms work typically on your entire catalog, entire inventory, merchandise. When it's online, limiting it and making it work within a store environment is really the part that will get is getting focused and getting developed today.
Got it. Sanjay, has your experience been similar? How has customer shopping behavior changed?
So as we are evolving in terms of technology, the customer behavior in and around is changing drastically. For a customer, I would say that for a particular platform or for a particular line of business, whatever the best experience he gets it, he expect the same from the next organization in line. So if he has visited a Amazon Go store, probably if he is visiting a My Fashion store or for that matter any other store, his expectation would be in the similar lines. So that way, if you talk about the evolved customer now using a store not only for meeting their shopping needs, but that's also a place where he does a lot of discovery. And if you look at online sales, around 40% of the sale what is happening on the online, it is some or other way connected to the offline store, whether it is a discovery, whether it is a matching the size and then coming back on online. So what it is, trending towards that, online and offline, they are merging. So what we call OMO, I mean, the discovery can start from online and then the sale can happen at offline and the vice versa. So the customer behavior, around 30% of the shoppers who goes in a store and while being in the store, they use their mobile phones and do the discovery using your app or maybe outside the internet. It could be about the style, it could be about the price, it could be about any other thing. So the customer behavior is changing in terms of his expectation that he should get a omni-channel kind of experience wherever he is. He should get the same experience while being at online site, your .com site, or while being WhatsApp for business or being at your store. So that's the bar basically from the customer side is setting up high. Another remarkable behavior change where the customer expect is the personalization, and some of my colleagues including Anuradha spoke about it, that customer needs to be recognized. And if you look at a survey data from Accenture, it says that your top 5 to 6% of the customer, they drive in around 25% of your profits. And if you're not able to recognize those top 5 to 6% of the customer, you cannot drive probably the incremental sale and then the value what they are producing it for you. And for that to happen, you need to have a technology in place to recognize the customer whenever and wherever he walks into your store or basically he comes to your .com site. So the behavior change which we talk about is personalized. Customer needs to be recognized. What customer needs in a store is very frictionless experience. I think many of us spoke about Amazon Go, where there is a frictionless shopping experience where you can walk out. And if walkout could be ultimate thing, but then any friction in terms of discovery, in terms of completing the sale, can actually jeopardize the organization's let's say quest for additional revenue. So frictionless experience, be it .com site, be it your store, the discovery, the purchase, the complete cycle needs to be very, very smooth and frictionless. And that's what the expectation from the customer. And another thing or another behavior basically which comes into prominence and which is the millennials and particularly Gen Zs, right? They expect to get associated with the brands which has the value system in the mind. What the organization is doing for the society, what the organization is doing for the cultivators, and that has become very, very prominent. The Gen Zs and millennials, they want to get associated with the brands which is contributing to the society. So the earlier, which was good to have, nice to have, and probably for the new brands and the new organization, it is imperative that they connect back to the society and bring values to them. So I think these are some of the behavior change which I have observed, which is happening across the consumers.
Thanks so much. And I think we might be keeping you from lunch. So just to wrap this up, I think, Vikram, I'll invite you first, and then Sri, just to share your parting thoughts on this.
Well, yeah. Okay, I'm audible now. Yeah, I think my thoughts really, I echoed them a little earlier that, AI has been, kind of a solution to searching for a problem. And now as the industry is maturing, as customer experience is becoming more important, as competitive pressure is increasing for both in terms of pricing, delivery, etc. A lot of the people who are behind the whole AI algorithms, etc., are starting to understand. It's important to understand the domain extremely well, and then be able to create the right kind of algorithms, of course, with the right kind of data. I think summary, you've got to have all of this in place if you have to make AI really work for you.
Yeah. So as a final remarks, I would also say that I think AI is extremely important. We're seeing a lot of use cases, but I think the adoption needs to be bespoke for every organization, and also allow some sort of custom building which is required, because sometimes you would need to play around and tweak around those algorithms which are out there to be a lot more bespoke for the solution you're after. But yeah, I think leveraging that data is absolutely critical. And I think Vikram did talk about attributes, and again, AI can only be helpful in terms of how much input we give to it. And only after that, it's going to naturally learn as well. So it's important to understand the objectives, and rather than just taking any product out there which is off the shelf, but understanding the core capabilities which you need to build, and it also needs to complement the entire concepts which you have in place, which would require some sort of manual intervention. And there's no harm of manual intervention along with AI till the time it solves the purpose.
Okay, thank you so much, panelists. Thank you, audience. And thank you, ET Retail.